With Caitlin Clark sidelined for the WNBA All-Star Game, the pressure was on the other players. This was their shot to prove they deserved the spotlight and the big money they keep demanding. They tried to make their mark on the court, but the fans, they had a statement of their own. And guess what? ESPN doesn't want you to know about it. The viewership numbers came out, and once again, ESPN is scrambling to cover up the cold, hard truth. The league and its players are getting exposed, and no one's talking about it.
Clark-Five's fans immediately called out ESPN's attempt to downplay her impact. This isn't the first time they've tried to bury her significance, but this time, it's backfiring big time. Let's break it all down. But first, hit that like button if you're sick of ESPN's manipulation, and subscribe for more updates on Caitlin Clark and the WNBA. Here's the deal with ESPN's shady tactics when it comes to Caitlin Clark's effect on viewership. They don't flat out lie, but they certainly don't tell the full story. They cherry-pick numbers, using stats that fit their agenda while conveniently ignoring the ones that don't. Take the 2025 WNBA draft, for example. ESPN proudly reported a 119% rise in viewership, which sounds huge. But here's the catch. They compare it to 2023, not 2024. Why skip over 2024? Because Caitlin's draft drew 2.45 million viewers that year. Had they compared it to that, the real headline would have been, draft viewership drops 49%. But ESPN doesn't want that truth out there. And this isn't a one-time thing. They've been doing this repeatedly. During March Madness 2025, they pulled the same stunt. Comparing numbers to 2023 was convenient until the Final Four and the title game, where suddenly they stopped comparing year to year and started saying third highest ever. Why? Because the year before, when Caitlin was there, the viewership numbers were through the roof. If they showed the full numbers, it'd be obvious. Ratings plummeted by over 10 million. That's not an oversight. That's a deliberate attempt to hide the truth. And here's the kicker. They think the fans won't catch on. ESPN tosses out big-sounding numbers, hoping people will just believe the WNBA is smashing records without Caitlin Clark. But in reality, they're making it so much more obvious that the league's growth is entirely linked to her. It's the Streisand effect in action. The more they try to hide her influence, the more attention it draws. And Caitlin's fans, they're not buying the spin, and they call it out every single time. Every selective stat, every dodge, just proves one thing. Caitlin Clark is the driving force behind this league's growth, and ESPN doesn't want anyone to know that. But it's not just ESPN. It's a league-wide issue. Every time the WNBA, its players, or the media try to downplay Caitlin's impact, they don't diminish her, they expose themselves. And honestly, it's laughable at this point. Take when Caitlin won Time Athlete of the Year. Immediate backlash, not because she didn't deserve it, but because apparently everyone else in the league deserved it too. Calls for a group cover, as if it's some kind of participation award. Funny how that standard only applies to Caitlin. When other stars like Asia Wilson or Breanna Stewart get featured, no one's asking for a group photo. And then came the ESPYs, where even her own coach couldn't congratulate her without quickly throwing praise at every other player. They can't even give her credit without watering it down. But this isn't just about the awards. This is about how fragile the WNBA ecosystem is around her. Even praise for Caitlin has to be politically negotiated. When the media acknowledges Caitlin's popularity, it's never just her doing the heavy lifting. They're quick to point out a rivalry or a moment, anything but giving credit where it's due. Caitlin's the one pulling the numbers. And when they admit she has millions of fans, suddenly those fans become a problem. Her supporters are being labeled as toxic or hateful, or worse, racist, because apparently it's a crime to support her. Even the Phoenix Mercury got involved with a passive-aggressive dig about Indianapolis not being safe for players. It's wild. The league, the media, the players, they're all trying to punish the one player who's single-handedly carrying the league's growth and the fans who made it happen. But they know the truth. Without Caitlin's fans, the power they hold slips away. Right now, the players are in a tense CBA negotiation, hoping to cash in while riding the wave of a media rights deal that's practically been built off Caitlin Clark's back. But behind the scenes, the owners know what's really going on. This league is heavily reliant on Caitlin's star power. When she's not on the court, ratings and ticket sales don't just dip, they crater by 50 or more percent. And that's not normal, not in any other league. So when Caitlin Clark was ruled out of the All-Star game, it put the players in a brutal position. This was supposed to be the league's biggest moment, its brightest spotlight. But suddenly, they were left on their own. No Caitlin, no guaranteed ratings boost, just the players and the chance to prove they could carry the event without her. And from the start, it all went downhill fast. Ticket prices dropped 48% the minute Caitlin was out. And that led to one glaring question. How bad would it really get? Could these players pull off a miracle without her? Or would the numbers finally expose how deep this dependency runs? Well, the ratings are in. And guess what? ESPN, they went straight into damage control mode. The weekend actually started off strong. The skills competition and three-point contest saw a solid viewership bump compared to 2024. Definitely a promising sign for the league. For a minute, it seemed like the players might actually pull it off. Maybe they could generate record numbers without Caitlin Clark on the court. But then, ESPN went right back to their old tricks, twisting the narrative to fit their agenda. Did you catch that? ESPN compared this year's All-Star Game ratings to 2023, the year before Caitlin Clark even stepped into the league. Funny thing is, just a few lines earlier, they compared the skills competition to 2024 in the same post. So why the sudden change? Gee, I wonder. Maybe it's because last year's All-Star Game, the one that did feature Caitlin Clark, pulled in 3.4 million viewers. This year, a measly 2.2 million. That's a 36% drop. 1.2 million fewer viewers. Gone. And instead of owning that, they buried it. Can you imagine saying Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is the NBA's all-time leading scorer, then adding a little asterisk that says, except for LeBron? That's exactly what this is, a deliberate attempt to spin the numbers in a way that sounds impressive without revealing the full story. Because here's the truth, most people are busy. They see 2.2 million viewers and a 158% increase and think the league's blowing up in popularity. They don't have time to dig deeper, and ESPN knows it. So yes, the numbers are technically accurate, but the way they're framed, designed to mislead. It's all part of a narrative that makes it sound like this year's All-Star Game was, wait for it, historic. And here's where ESPN really screwed up. Instead of trying to smooth things over, their spin only made the problem worse. They triggered the Streisand effect. Everyone caught on to the 2023 comparison trick. Now it's out in the open and there's no hiding it. Here's the reality. 2.2 million viewers? That's actually solid by WNBA All-Star Game standards. But when you see a 36% drop from last year's record, all thanks to Caitlin Clark, her impact is impossible to ignore. And it makes what the players did over All-Star Weekend look pretty pathetic. They puffed out their chests, threw on protest shirts, pay us what we owe us, used the fan event to push their message about what they deserve. But here's the cold, hard truth. It was a risky move in the court of public opinion, and it backfired.
In the post-game press conference, she took aim at Caitlin Clark and her team, implying they didn't care enough to meet about the protest t-shirts. She said this in Indiana, Caitlin's home market, right after an event that was supposed to unite the league. It was a massive misstep. Instead of celebrating Indiana for hosting a record-breaking weekend, instead of applauding the sold-out crowd, the city, or the fans, Kelsey took a jab at the one player who's literally giving the league the platform to demand more. Kelsey and others tried to brush it off as a joke. But Caitlin's fans, the ones who were about to pump a lot more money into these players' pockets, didn't see it that way. NBA champion and broadcaster Stacey King, he said exactly what needed to be said. With the terrible on-court performance and Kelsey's off-court blunder, the WNBA players couldn't afford another hit. A 36% drop in ratings would have been the final nail in the coffin. ESPN's attempt to call it a historic event was exactly the spin they needed. But right now, I'm talking about the court of public opinion. The owners, they see right through it. If you dig even a little deeper, they'd probably be the first to admit behind closed doors that it's actually worse than what ESPN's trying to sell. If Caitlin had actually played in the game, not just sat on the bench, it wouldn't have just matched last year's 3.4 million viewers. It would have easily surpassed it. Just look at the numbers from this season. When Caitlin plays, the ratings go through the roof. Her games against the Sky, the Liberty, and the Sun have all ranked among the most watched WNBA broadcasts in decades, with viewership topping 2.7 million, 2.2 million, and 1.7 million respectively. So realistically, if Caitlin had suited up for the All-Star game, we're not talking about 3.4 million viewers, we're probably talking over 4 million. Which means this wasn't just a 36% drop, it was a 50% loss in potential viewership. Here's the most mind-blowing part about all of this, though. Instead of comparing against 2023 to try to make it sound like a historic night, why not just say the quiet part out loud? Thanks to the Caitlin Clark effect and all the new fans, You just had the second most watched All-Star game ever, and she wasn't even playing. Just admit it. The Caitlin Clark effect is real. It's driving the league's growth. And while you're at it, maybe welcome and thank those new fans. That's it. That's all fans want to hear. Not this weird gaslighting, not these subtle shots at Caitlin after the game, implying she didn't initially support the statement, when she's literally the foundation of everything you're fighting for. The reality is, the players are going to get more money, no question. Even though the league's been losing money every year, team values have doubled since Caitlin arrived. The owners have every reason to invest. They don't want to luck out, and neither should the players. But here's the truth. They could get a lot more if they just embraced the people making all this growth possible, if they stopped insulting the fans, if they stopped pretending Caitlin's not the reason the numbers are moving. Because the more they resist the Caitlin Clark effect, the more blatantly obvious it becomes, and the longer Caitlin remains the only player those fans actually care about. If you're still here, drop a GOAT in the comments, because that's exactly what you are. Thanks for watching. See you next time.